Hello, welcome to today's second Verbling Advanced class on a science topic. Today's class will focus on basic biology. I studied biology at my university, so I'm very excited for this. And we'll be talking about some basic biological concepts, and then we'll be seeing what students want to go over in more detail and going into some certain topics on a deeper level of understanding. So hi, Ilyas, welcome back.
Hi.
And then we have someone else here. I can't read your name because I don't know how to read that type of script writing, but welcome.
Welcome.
What is your name?
My name is Munir.
Munir?
Yeah.
Okay, great. It's nice to meet you, Munir.
Thank you. Me too.
All right, so for those of you who are watching this stream, go ahead and click the green Join Class button. And once enough people have joined, we will begin the class.
We are waiting.
Yes, we'll wait for a couple more people, and then we'll get started. I'm just going to pull up our materials for the day. Okay.
Libby,
Yes?
are you English teacher now?
Yes, I am an English teacher here in France. I teach the high school level, so I teach students between 16 and 18 years old.
Do you want to master at university, teacher?
I want to go to medical school. So I studied biology for 4 years, but when I return to the United States, I want to go and study medicine, and hopefully I would like to be a doctor someday.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's why I like science.
Okay.
All right, we have someone new joining. Is it Ahmed? Okay, maybe Ahmed might not have a microphone. Okay. Ilyas, what do you do? What is your job?
I'm students.
What do you study?
I study in a university. I study computer technology, computer programming, and education for computing technology.
Cool. That's great. And when you do computer programming, is a lot of it, I mean, is it in English by standard, or can you do it in, I don't know much about programming, but do you need English for programming?
Yes, I need. And programming is difficulty, such as C programming and C++ programming. Besides Microsoft, programming of Microsoft, that is all needs English, learning English.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so I think we will get started in a minute because I think we have enough people. So today's class is about basic biology. So this is the subject that I studied in my university courses. My major was called human biology. So I really love biology, and I'd love to hear more about what topics you guys would like to talk about. This will be an advanced class, so I will be employing a higher level of English and of discussion than I do in most of my classes. So if you don't understand something, make sure to let me know. Don't be afraid to say, stop, explain this to me. Or again, if it's too easy, just tell me this is too easy and we can do something more difficult. I'm happy to help you guys study whatever you want to study. So first I'd like to meet those of you who I don't know. So my name's Libby. I'm American. I live in France at the moment. And let's see, I'd like to hear from you all about your favorite thing to do on the weekends. So I'd like you all to say your name, where you are, and what country you're in, and what's your favorite thing to do on the weekends. So I'm Libby, I'm in France, and my favorite thing to do on the weekends is to cook with my friends. I like to cook eggs, I like to cook brunch, and I like to cook everything. So I like to cook with my friends on the weekends. So let's see, Gwen, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Xuyen. I'm from Vietnam, and I like to go out on weekends, like to buy clothes or something.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And Ilyas?
Yes. I'm from Turkey, in Malatya. I'm studying at university now, and my favorite things: programming software, and
Nice.
And besides programming websites, such one.
Great. Awesome. Okay, so we have Oscar. Are you here? Okay. I can't hear you, so I don't know if you maybe don't have a microphone or if it's not working. But if you get it working, definitely let us know. Okay, and then we have, is Munir, is that right?
Yeah. My name is Munir Abdulaziz. I'm living in Saudi Arabia at the moment, but originally I am from Africa, from country call it Burkina Faso.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I'm studying at university via internet, call it University of the People.
Great. Cool.
And I like at the weekend, I like to take a journey with friends, have a picnic, and do some fresh moments and so on.
Yes. Cool, yeah. Taking trips with friends on the weekends is really fun.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to have you here for this advanced class. So biology is really cool. I think some students find biology to be one of the easier science subjects to study because it involves a little bit less math than some other subjects. However, I think that biology can be a harder subject for English learners because it involves so much more vocabulary and so many more words than the other scientific disciplines. So the way I thought we would start is I have a quiz. It's a little basic biology quiz. And we can answer these questions together, talk about which vocabulary we find confusing, and then maybe choose a more specific area of biology to talk about, depending on what you guys would like to learn or what vocabulary is important to you. So I'm going to paste the link to this quiz in the chat box. I'll post it in both boxes. So please open that link, and then we'll go ahead and do this quiz all together.
Science quiz, biology quiz. Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Where is the link? In the Verbling chat or in the?
Yeah, it's in the it's in where it says Verbling classes.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, yes, I can hear you.
I would like to introduce myself, if you like.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
My name is Cem, Özgür Cem. It's difficult to pronounce in English, I know. I live in Turkey. I'm a teacher. I teach English, in fact. But I may have difficulties in pronunciation. If so, please forgive me. I'm not interested in biology because I had never been good at biology or science or maths. My marks were very low, but I will try to do my best.
Okay, cool. Well, hopefully we can make it fun enough that you will find it interesting.
Thank you.
Biology can be kind of cool, so hopefully it will be all right.
I would like to add that my sister is a biology teacher. Now she lives in Izmir, a western city, let me tell you. But we have different interests. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, cool. Well, so let's open this. Let's open this quiz together. So go ahead and open that link. First, I'm going to go ahead and read you the paragraph at the top of the quiz. So the paragraph at the top of the quiz says, the study of biology covers a wide range of interesting topics that include genetics, cells, photosynthesis, microbiology, ecology, botany, evolution, DNA, viruses, and bacteria. Challenge your knowledge of these topics by taking our fun biology quiz. The questions range from easy to hard and will test you on a number of different biology-related subjects, as well as some general trivia. When you've finished answering as many of the questions as you can, scroll down to the bottom of the page and check your answers. Okay, so I figure we'll do this quiz together and then see what you guys want to talk more about. So for now, we can do the first question. So the first question is, which famous scientist introduced the idea of natural selection?
Darwin.
Good. Okay, so Darwin introduced the idea of natural selection. Do you know the name of the book that Darwin wrote about natural selection? He wrote a book.
Selection of spices.
Yeah, it's close. It's The Origin of Species.
Pardon.
So his work was called The Origin of Species. How did Charles Darwin do his research? Where did he go? What did he do?
Galapagos Islands.
Yes, he went to the Galapagos Islands. And what was special about the Galapagos Islands? Why did he go there?
There is a natural separation in the mountain of the specific species from another species, so he depended on this phenomenon to
Perfect.
prove his what's called
theory?
a thesis,
Thesis
or theory.
Yeah. So so in the scientific method, typically a scientist has a hypothesis. That's something they think is true, maybe. They do research, and then they either prove or disprove their hypothesis. If they prove their hypothesis, that can create a theory, or usually we call it a theory. Typically, we don't really refer to things in science as laws. The only things we refer to as laws are things like gravity that have been proven in multiple scenarios. But we call it a theory because technically in science, anything can always be disproven. Anything can always be found to not be correct. So we still call evolution theory. It's Darwin's theory of evolution. That doesn't mean that we're uncertain about it. It means that that's just what we call things that we believe to be true in science. So yeah, good. He used the Galapagos Islands because of their volcanic activity, created something called I forget whether it's primary or secondary succession. It's called succession. When species are able to sort of start over in a new environment. And what happened was the birds in the Galapagos Islands, particularly the finches, which are a certain type of bird, the finches experienced something called adaptive radiation. So that means that they radiated out from a source. So there was one kind of finches, and as they began to migrate to the different Galapagos Islands, they evolved to meet those specific tiny environments, microenvironments. And so each species that radiated out from the center became slightly different. So these finches, because of this adaptive radiation, Darwin could study the differences, particularly in their beaks, actually, in the way that they would, in the way their beaks were designed. And that's how he developed his theory of natural selection. Okay. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay, awesome. So, number 2, a person who studies biology is known as a...
Biologist.
Yes, good, a biologist. Okay, number 3, botany is the study of...
Plants.
Plants, excellent. Number 4, can frogs live in salt water?
No.
No.
No, okay. Number 5, true or false? The common cold is caused by a virus.
False. Common cold caused by bacteria.
So it's actually true. The common cold is caused by a virus. So.
What about the flu?
The flu, I believe the flu is bacterial, but I need to check on that. Because...
No, flu by a virus.
Oh, right. The flu is by a virus, and they're able to provide a vaccine against that particular virus every year. Okay, yeah, so the flu is viral. The cold is famously viral because the common cold, the virus that causes the common cold, it's hard to develop a vaccine for it or a cure for it because it has such a variety. It can take such a variety of forms.
I have a picture for the differences between common cold and the flu. I will share it.
Okay, wonderful.
This is the differences between common cold and the flu.
Could you make it a little bit bigger?
Like this.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah. Headache in the common cold, sneezing, runny nose, sore throat, to moderate. Use analgesic, antihistamine, nasal decongestant. For the common cold or the flu, use antibiotic and cough syrup.
That's a great diagram. That's cool. All right. Thank you for sharing that. So, yeah, so the common cold is caused by a virus. Can anyone tell me what's the difference between a virus and a bacterium?
A bacteria is a living organism that can be classified as have a true nucleus. A virus is cannot live without a host, so it's called as can we say as I can't remember exactly what is the scientist meaning.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So that's exactly the difference, is that a bacterium a bacterium is a living, independent organism. So it replicates itself. Bacteria replicate using a method called binary fission. And viruses are not able to replicate on their own. So what viruses do is infect a host cell. And then there are two ways that viruses can take over a host cell. One of the ways is called...
Transduction?
Yes, that's exactly right. And then more particularly for viruses, there are two types of cycles called the lysogenic cycle and the lytic cycle. So in the lysogenic cycle, I believe that's when the virus basically makes the host cell replicate the viral DNA. So a virus is some genetic material encased in a protein coat, and that's basically it. A virus is some DNA or some RNA and a coat that it's called like a capsule. And the virus can put that DNA into a host cell that it infects, and it can make the host reproduce its DNA. Or via the lytic cycle, after the host has reproduced the viral DNA, the virus can cause the cell to lyse. So when the virus causes the cell to lyse, that means that it makes it burst. I'm just going to write it in the chat. Yeah, so sometimes viruses can just make cells explode and kill them. So that's how viruses infect cells. Bacteria are a little bit different. They have a cell membrane, so they're like a real cell. They have genetic material, and their DNA actually comes in circular shapes. And so bacteria and viruses are very, very different types of not even organisms. Bacteria are organisms, and viruses are not. So any questions about that?
No.
All right. Awesome. Okay, number 6. Animals which eat both plants and other animals are known as what?
Omnivore.
Yes, good. Omnivores. So humans are omnivores. We eat both. Has anyone ever read the book The Omnivore's Dilemma or heard of it? The Omnivore's Dilemma is one of my favorite books. It's by Michael Pollan. The Omnivore's Dilemma is by Michael Pollan, and the word is omnivore, like that. And that basically, his book is about how humans are omnivores, so we eat plants and animals. But a lot of humans in America have started to eat too many animals. We just feel like meat is good for us, and then we eat way too much of it. And the omnivore's dilemma is figuring out, as humans, basically we can eat almost anything, but eating healthy is another story. And so his book is kind of about the American food system and also how to eat well. And I think it's it's not a lot of science. It's not a biology book. It's a cultural book, but it's still interesting, and it's a good way to remember the word omnivore. So, all right. Number 7, bacterial infections in humans can be treated with what?
Antibiotic.
Perfect. That's exactly right. So a bacterial infection can be treated with antibiotics. Before antibiotics were invented, a lot of bacterial infections killed people. If you got certain infections, you would die. Now we have antibiotics like penicillin.
Invented by Fleming.
Yes.
French
yes.
scientist.
Yes, that's exactly right. And So antibiotics were a huge medical advancement. Does anyone know the problem with antibiotics? What's
There is
the
a
problem?
resistance in the bacteria that that can destroy the antibiotic. Like for example, if we look at penicillin, there is a resistance in the bacteria that secrete penicillinic acid, which destroy the penicillin. So it will become a resistant to the bacteria. It's a type of can resist the natural antibiotics.
Good. That's exactly correct. So bacteria have this genetic material, they have DNA, in these circles like this. So human DNA is a double helix. Bacterial DNA is in a circle. And they have these circular pieces of DNA. Sometimes, through various processes, bacteria can exchange genetic material. So bacteria can trade DNA. And sometimes when the bacteria trade DNA, they can give each other certain genes that they didn't have before. So let's say I have bacterial infections. I have a bacterial infection. I take penicillin. Let's say some of the bacteria from my infection are resistant to penicillin. So they have some little thing in this DNA that, that like you said, it makes something that destroys penicillin. And so those bacteria will survive if I take penicillin. Those bacteria are still here. They're still kicking, and they are going to multiply. So when I take penicillin, some bacteria are still alive. They multiply, and they can cause another infection. And so we don't want to take antibiotics too much because it actually selects for the bacteria that are resistant to that antibiotic. Then if I have penicillin-resistant bacteria in my body, they're way harder to get rid of. So antibiotic resistance is a big problem, and that's why we try not to take antibiotics when we don't need to take them. But when we do need to take them, antibiotics are very important for eliminating bacterial infections. And question in the chat was, what was my major? My major was called human biology. So I studied, I didn't really study general biology that much. I actually studied more anthropology, sociology, and like how humans interact. So I studied more macro scale, what we call macro scale biology. But a lot of general biology is more micro scale. So I don't remember a lot of details, but hopefully I can still give you guys some helpful stuff and brush up on my own biology. Okay, so let's go on to number 8. A single piece of coiled DNA is known as a what? What's a single piece of coiled DNA?
Bond.
It's not coiled. I don't accept this term because it's not a scientific term. And they answer that it's a chromosome. Chromosome, not a coiled DNA. It's the main subunit of the DNA. When we want, yeah.
So I agree. I think this question is poorly worded. I would not word the question this way. But what the question is getting at is that human DNA comes in a form called a double helix. So that's 2 spirals that wrap around each other in opposite directions. We have our DNA in a double helix. These double helices can basically wrap. They basically need to pack themselves very tightly in order to fit in a small space. So in human cells, we have like miles and miles, kilometers and kilometers of DNA, but it needs to fit into these tiny cells. And the way that it does this is by packing itself. So the DNA coils basically around itself. So it actually is coiled DNA. Coils just refers to a general shape. The DNA packs itself very tightly by wrapping itself like this.
Double helix DNA.
That's correct. And then once the DNA is in a double helix, it forms even tighter structures. And it wraps, basically DNA wraps around these protein complexes called histones. Don't worry too much about that for now, but...
Bisulfide bridge. Histones, bisulfide bridge.
Yes, that's one way that that things can connect to each other. Sulfur can form cross-links. But in general, what's important to know is that the DNA wraps around these histones, and it wraps itself very tightly, and it eventually wraps itself into something called a chromosome. Okay. Does anyone know how many chromosomes humans have?
Yes, 46.
Yeah, it's 46. Humans have 46 chromosomes. It's actually really like 23 different chromosomes, but we have 2 copies of each one. Why do we have 2 copies of each chromosome?
Each copy represent they can cover each other, one from mother and one from the parents.
That's exactly right. We have 2 copies of each chromosome because one comes from our mother and one comes from our father. So we have 22 what are called like somatic, like non-sex chromosomes, and then we have 2 sex chromosomes. What are the sex chromosomes? We use letters to refer to them.
X and Y.
X and Y.
Excellent. So the sex chromosomes are X and Y. What do females have? What are the female sex chromosomes?
The female have XX.
XX.
Yes. Females are XX, and males are XY.
XY.
And in my biology class, and I'm sure in your classes as well, you study a lot of disorders that can happen if people have issues with their sex chromosomes. So for instance, sometimes through a process called non-disjunction, when chromosomes don't separate properly, people can be XXY. You have 2 X's and a Y. That's called Klinefelter Syndrome. And in Klinefelter Syndrome, basically people are not really able to reproduce. They have kind of bizarre characteristics, and they may have both male and female physical attributes. And so there are a lot of disorders. There's XO, so you might only have an X and then nothing else. That's called Turner syndrome. Those people are sterile. They can't reproduce. So there are a lot of disorders associated with having the wrong numbers of sex chromosomes. Okay, awesome. So any questions about chromosomes? No, everyone's good? All right, cool. So number 9 is kind of random. A group of dog offspring is known as a...
Litter.
Yeah, it's a litter. Same thing with cats. There are a lot of different names for different groups of animals. So, for instance, do you know what a group of birds is called? A group of what's a group of birds called in English?
Nope.
I don't know.
I think Juan, you might have said it. A flock. A big group of birds is a flock. Okay, what about a big group of elephants or a big group of horses? What is that called? Yeah, a herd. So a herd is a usually a group of like big animals that walk, so elephants or horses. Yeah, you can have and then swarm. You can have a swarm of insects. So if there's a big group of bees or flies or some kind of insects, that's a swarm. How about lions? What's a group of lions called? Does anyone know what a group of lions is called? Yes, yes, lions do typically like to be alone. They're more lone animals than some other ones. But when there is a group of lions, it's called a pride. A pride is a group of lions. How about a group of fish?
A bunch.
No, actually, I can't remember the name right now. What do you call it when there's a lot of fish? Oh, I think it's called this. No, a swim? No. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember my own English words. Group of fish is called. Oh, a school. Sorry. So a group of fish is called a school. There we go. A school of, so you'd say a school of fish. Cool. So yes, there are a lot of different ways to name groups of animals. Okay, let's see. Oh, what about like wolves or wild dogs or some kind of predators? What do you call a group of predators? It's a pack. So you would say a pack of wolves. So yeah, a group of usually predatory animals, you call it a pack. A pack of hyenas or a pack of wild animals. Yeah, a pack of wolves. All right, number 10. Let's go over number 10 on the quiz. The area of biology devoted to the study of fungi is known as?
Mycology.
Mycology, good. Mycology is the study of fungi. Okay, what is a fungus? How do you define a fungus? Does anyone know?
A type of the species that grow in the dark humidity area.
Good. So they're a type of species. They usually live in dark, humid areas. Fungi are different from animals or from plants. So animals, plants, and fungi are the three separate kingdoms of organisms. Fungi are actually closer genetically
to the plants.
To animals than they are to plants. Which is weird because fungi seem similar to plants. Actually, on a cellular level, fungi are more similar to animals, which is strange.
Why?
Just in terms of the evolutionary tree, the attributes that fungi share with the individual fungal cells share with animal cells are closer than the aspects they share with plants.
Yes, because it's the DNA, no? DNA.
DNA. That's right.
DNA.
Yeah, it has to do with the DNA and then the organisms. I mean the organelles that exist within the cells. Fungi are similar to plants in that they have a cell wall. So there's a cell membrane which surrounds the cell. Inside that is a harder cell wall for structural reasons. Fungi and plants both have a cell wall, but animal cells don't have a cell wall. Animal cells are like mushy. They have no cell wall.
Can fungi move?
What?
Can fungi move like animals?
Yeah, so animals use either shells or bones for structural support, so they don't need cell walls in their cells. I think
No, it's not related to the cell wall. When we talk about the cell wall, it's the skeleton inside. But both plants and animal cells have the cell membrane that enclosed the content of the cell.
yeah, so a cell wall surrounds the cell, and then other forms of cellular support can also arise inside the cell. So animal cells, and also animal cells use an internal skeleton that's also made of microtubules, microfilaments, basically a bunch of different kinds of fibers that support the cell and let the cell move that way. But even so, those kinds of cells can't form very large animals on their own. So obviously animals like us use different things for structural support. Okay, so let's see. Number 11. We'll go over number 11. What is the name of the process used by plants to convert sunlight into food?
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis.
Good. Photosynthesis. Okay. So it's because of photosynthesis that plants consume carbon dioxide. So they take carbon dioxide out of the air, and plants produce oxygen through photosynthesis.
For people.
And then the people can use that oxygen. So what is the name of the process that people and animals use? That's the sort of the opposite of photosynthesis.
Respiration.
Good. So the opposite of photosynthesis is respiration. And what does respiration do? What do we consume and what do we emit?
Utilize the oxygen and emit the CO2, carbon dioxide.
That's exactly right.
Through
So
the process of called glycolysis, by the glucose.
Exactly. Good. So glycolysis is the name of one of the processes involved in respiration. There are several different processes involved in respiration, and that's some very complex biology. But basically,
it's related to biochemistry.
Yes, there's a lot of biochemistry involved, and it's a very micro level thing. If you ever want to study it, you're welcome to. I had to memorize some of that stuff for my exams, and I didn't really like it. But if you like that, you're welcome to study that. Okay, Sammy has a question. Yes, so when every member of a species dies, it's called extinction. So when a species is totally gone, it is extinct. What's the name of a species when there are not very many members left of the species?
They're endangered.
Good. So an endangered species is one where there are not very many members of the species left. Okay. So Sammy was going ahead to number 12. Number 12, like we said, is extinction. Good. All right. Okay, we'll go on to number 13. The process of pasteurization is named after which famous French microbiologist?
Louis Pasteur.
Louis Pasteur.
Yes, Louis Pasteur is the guy who pasteurization is named after. Okay, let's see. 14. True or false? A salamander is a warm-blooded animal.
False.
False.
Yeah, so false. Salamander is not a warm-blooded animal. 14 is false. So humans, we're mammals. That's the name of our group of animals. Are mammals cold-blooded or warm-blooded?
Warm-blooded.
And what does it mean to be warm-blooded? What does that mean?
Have a true circulation and heart pumping.
Maybe
Right.
constant body temperature.
Right. So we maintain a constant internal temperature, and that's because we're burning energy to heat our bodies, basically. What does it mean to be cold-blooded?
Body temperature can change.
Exactly right. So what's an example of a kind of animal that's cold-blooded?
A snake.
Good, a snake. So reptiles. Reptiles are cold-blooded because they do not. They need to use the environment to heat and cool their bodies. So that's why you see snakes outside laying in the sun on hot days. They're warming up their bodies, and as a result, the metabolism of cold-blooded animals also changes. So your metabolism refers to your heart rate, how fast you're burning energy. For instance, when snakes hibernate, when it's cold outside, their metabolism is very low. So when they're just sitting still, they're not really doing anything and they're not really utilizing energy. Whereas we need to use energy all the time because we need to maintain a constant internal temperature. So that's the difference between warm-blooded and cold-blooded animals. I actually didn't really know before this that a salamander was cold-blooded. I guess amphibians are cold-blooded animals. Do you know there's one amphibian that lays eggs? Or no, there's one mammal that lays eggs. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, it's called bat.
Sorry, what did you say?
Bat.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's called the platypus.
Platypus.
The platypus is the only mammal who lays eggs. I always think that's a funny piece of trivia. Platypus, sorry, chickens lay eggs. I meant, what is a platypus? Anyway, there's something that's special about the platypus. No, you're totally right, because birds lay eggs. So birds are warm-blooded. What's a platypus? No, that's because birds are not mammals. There we go. Yes, I'm right. So platypus is a mammal, and birds are a separate group, so they all lay eggs. Sorry, I psyched myself out for a second. All right, 15. The last question is a change of the DNA in an organism that results in a new trait is known as a what?
Mutation.
Good, a mutation. Okay, that's great. What are some environmental influences that can cause a mutation in DNA? What can happen that can mutate DNA?
Gray.
A genetic defect in the replication, the process of replication may lead to the mutation. There is a base in the DNA that there is a nitrogen base, especially in the nitrogen base in the DNA, can occur the mutation. And there is many types of mutation, like silent mutation, and such that.
Good. That's great. Awesome. So, an error in the process of replication. So DNA, here you have your double helix of DNA. This DNA copies itself. It replicates. And when DNA replicates, the enzymes, the proteins that help the DNA replicate, they're very accurate. They're very good at copying it correctly. But
amino acid, especially. Amino acid.
Yes. So basically, another thing is that when that's a separate process because amino acids are the building blocks for proteins.
Yeah, you said that protein. What is consists of protein is amino acid. Amino acid, every 3 amino acid that give a codon. A codon give what? Give a DNA, nitrogen base, and such that.
Yes. So that's a completely separate process. You're completely correct. But what we're talking about right now is DNA replication. What you're talking about is transcription and translation, which is the process that's used to make proteins, which there can also be mistakes in that. And proteins that are wrong, those can cause a lot of problems as well. But when we're talking about just mutations in DNA, you're right. So when DNA does not copy itself correctly, the DNA can be different later on. So when that DNA is different, then it can make proteins that are faulty. So there are proteins involved in multiple steps of the process, and it can be a little bit confusing. So for now, let's talk about just about replication. So things that can cause this replication to go wrong are things like, yes, like one said, X-rays. There's a reason that they put a big thing on you when you get an X-ray, because they don't want it to cause any damage to your DNA. Also, UV radiation, sunlight. Sometimes people get skin cancer or other diseases because ultraviolet radiation from the sun can mess up the way that your DNA replicates. So that's right. Another thing is carcinogens, so something like smoking cigarettes or other asbestos, other substances that cause diseases. Those can cause disease because they cause mutations. And then, yes, these mutations cause the DNA to make the wrong proteins, and the proteins do the wrong things. And that's when you have problems in your cells. Okay, good. So thank you all for doing that quiz with me. I would love to hear about more specific topics that you would like to talk about if I do more science classes. So what are some specific topics in biology that you would like to talk more about?
Evolution.
The different classes.
Good. I can make a future class about evolution because it's a very good concept with a lot of good English vocabulary. Okay, what else?
Different classes and kingdoms. I don't know. Yeah, we have animals, reptiles, like different classes.
Yeah, good. I'll talk about that. So I'll talk about like classification. That's a lot of good vocabulary. Classification of organisms. Yeah, definitely. I can definitely do a class on that. Okay, what else?
Photosynthesis. How to explain like process and respiration and stuff.
Yeah, we can do photosynthesis and respiration, because that's a very important topic. Not a lot of vocabulary there, but we can try to. It's a lot of memorization, but we can try to make that fun too. Okay, cool. What else? Any other ideas, stuff that interests you? Okay, Sammy wants to do one on mating. I guess we can study the reproductive system. I'm not a big fan of the reproductive system, but we can study it anyway.
Oh, how about different systems in human body?
Great. Okay, yeah, that's a great idea because that's a lot of good vocabulary as well. Organ systems are something
Anatomy. Can you talk about anatomy?
Yeah,
Anatomy,
we can do. Yeah, definitely. Anatomy is something we can definitely study for sure. Okay. These are some great ideas. Thank you so much. I always love all of your ideas. Any other ideas for advanced level verbling classes that you would like to see? We have a lot of really wonderful advanced students, and so I'd love to teach classes on whatever other topics you guys would like to talk about. We can do some more literature-based classes. We can do some history-based classes. I'll talk about anything. Doesn't matter to me.
You can teach everything.
I just like to teach, so I'll teach anything.
Yeah, how about history?
Cool. Yeah, we can do some stuff on history. Any particular? I mean, I don't know. I know some American history, but I don't know if that's very interesting for you. Maybe maybe I can do some more European or world history and find something cool. Sammy wants to do a class about dating. Sounds like he's got sort of a one-track mind there. Okay, what else?
Very important topic.
What, dating?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, maybe we should do a class about dating, about how to meet people in English. You know, it can be very difficult.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult. I
Very
find
important.
How to flirt.
when I'm in France and I'm at a bar or something, sometimes it's very difficult to know what to say to someone. So it can be helpful. I don't know.
Can you speak French?
Yes, I can. I live in France now, so I speak okay French. I'm working on it. So yeah, I'm trying. Okay. Any other ideas for classes?
How about geology? I mean,
Geology,
like
yes.
seismic activities.
Sure. Yeah, like earth sciences, geology.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't study much of that in school, but I can learn, and then we can. That's another one where it's useful just to know a lot of English words, so I can definitely do something with earth sciences too. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your ideas, and hopefully you learned a little something, or at least some biology vocabulary today. And I'm
Thank
really
you so much,
excited.
teacher.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have more classes with you guys. So thank you so much.
Merci
Okay.
beaucoup.
Thank you for
You're
you.
welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.